All women are different, but they are all women. This video is androcentric from a men's point of view and is presented as opinion, commentary, and debate. Expressing opinions is not violence. These are ideas to challenge, question, and argue in public, because classical liberalism relies on the First Amendment for its dialectic. If you are a feminist, then consider this. If patriarchy truly existed as claimed, feminism could not. And if all men are trash and women are equal to men, then what are we to conclude? Women will die for their children, men will die for their wives and children, and God chose to die for all mankind. Authority rolls up with responsibility. If this framing of facts offends you, click off to a cute cat video. Proceeding further will expose you to gamma bias and criticism directed at ideas, claims, institutions, not at any individual's virtue or dignity. Our method follows the 7 liberal arts, the trivium, grammar, logic, rhetoric, and the quadrivium, arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy. If this framework is not for you, feel free to exit now. It's no disgrace. Women are wonderful. God bless America. Men are great. Misandry Man Box. Caged by feminism, tortured by Marxism. Genocentric two-tier injustice for men. Written by Conrad Reicher. Available now. Links in description. Men are the fuel, not the fire. How feminism, secularism, and the war on fatherhood are burning the West alive. And what the red-pilled man must do before it's too late. I once watched a man weep in a Starbucks because his wife left him for a yoga instructor named Sage. Yes, with a G, who taught emotional flow dance. This man had paid for her grad school, supported her through 2 miscarriages, and never raised his voice. He believed love was service. She believed love was vibes. And under the new sacraments of feminism and therapy culture, Sage was canonized, while this man was excommunicated by the courts, by society, by his own children, whom she weaponized like tiny, pouty little prosecutors. He wasn't abusive, he wasn't neglectful. He was simply male, and in the post-Christian, post-truth, post-Father West, that is now a capital crime. Let me be blunt, you are not broken because you don't cry on command. You are not toxic because you want to lead. You are not a relic because you believe in duty, honor, or hard work. You are being erased, not by accident, but by design. The Academy has no department for men's studies because they don't want you to study manhood. They want you to dissolve into it. Meanwhile, women's studies departments at Harvard teach that biology is a social construct, but somehow PMS is a legal defense. The same universities that mock you for believing in God fund entire centers dedicated to the gender euphoria of 14-year-old boys cutting off their genitals. Let that sink in. We have taxpayer-funded labs promoting trans ideology while laughing at men who suggest fatherhood deserves study. Men die in mines, on rigs, in wars. 97% of workplace fatalities are ours. Yet we are told we are the oppressors. You are not imagining this. This is not toxic masculinity. This is systemic male disposability. And the moment you slept with her, she didn't fall in love. She activated an ancient software buried in her DNA. Hypergamy 3.0. She didn't ghost you because you did something wrong. She ghosted you because you did something right. You gave her intimacy, and now she's checking the market to see if she can trade up. This isn't cruelty, it's biology. And if you chase her, you prove your low value. If you vanish for 72 hours and don't beg, you pass the test. Weak men beg. Strong men rebuild, and the fatherless, they don't lead, they implode. 70% of prisoners grew up without dads. Meanwhile, the church is mocked. Christ is reduced to a social justice influencer. And boys are drugged with Ritalin because they won't sit still in a feminized dungeon called school. You are not disordered, the world is. And if you don't audit your father, his strengths, his failures, you'll unconsciously repeat them. No woman will follow a man who hasn't conquered his own past. The sacred masculine isn't gone. It's been buried under a landfill of therapy jargon, divorce decrees, and Disney cartoons where heroes are either dead, neutered, or named Olaf. It's time to dig it up. It's time to stop being the provider and start being the priest, protector, and king, or die trying. The alchemy of masculine sovereignty. A man's got to know his limitations. Clint Eastwood once growled, but in today's world, a man isn't even allowed to have a self, let alone know it. I met a software engineer in Austin. Brilliant, disciplined, a man who built systems that scaled. He earned $20,000 a year, not from crypto grift or influencer nonsense, but from solving hard problems. He married a woman, funded IVF out of pocket, over $60,000 in treatments, only to be discarded after 5 childless years. She walked away with the house, the dog, and the emotional high ground while he was handed divorce papers and a future child support order for children she might one day have with another man. The court didn't blink. That's not justice, that's legalized cuckoldry, a ritual sacrifice of the provider at the altar of female entitlement. And the worst part, he's not alone. In America, over 70% of divorce cases are initiated by women. NSFG, CDC, and family courts operate on the unspoken doctrine that men are walking ATMs with expired emotional warranties. You're not a husband, you're a utility. I once asked a Harvard grad student if her university had a male studies department. She laughed, not because it was a silly question, but because it was dangerous. Harvard's Gender Sci Lab, on the other hand, publishes papers claiming sex is a spectrum, while actively silencing biologists who dare affirm that chromosomes are not a social construct. They'll fund a trans activist to lecture on gender fluidity but shut down a professor who suggests men and women are different in any meaningful way. This isn't academia, it's ideological terrorism. While every Ivy League school has women's studies programs flush with grants, conferences, and tenured chairs, there is not a single accredited men's studies program in the entire United States, and barely a whisper of one on Earth. This absence is not an accident, it is a design. They want you confused, disoriented, severed from your lineage, because a man who doesn't know what a man is can't fight back. Let's talk about death. Real death, not metaphorical toxic masculinity death. According to the US Bureau of Labor Statistics 2023, men account for 97% of workplace fatalities. That's not because men are reckless, it's because men do the dangerous jobs. Mining, construction, power line work, firefighting, offshore drilling. We climb towers in hurricanes, crawl into sewers, and defuse bombs while the culture scolds us for emotional unavailability. Meanwhile, in the gender discourse, men are never vulnerable unless it's to be blamed. Women get trauma-informed care, safe spaces, and victim status for existing. Men get a pat on the back and a body bag. The feminist narrative insists men built the world to oppress women, but here's the irony. Men built the world to protect women, and now that world is being used to erase us. The pyramids weren't built by complaining about patriarchy. They were built by men who carried stones, not placards. Disney knows exactly what they're doing. Watch the evolution from Hercules, a demigod who earned his divinity through labor and sacrifice, to Olaf, a neutered snowman who giggles about warm hugs. From Mulan Shang, disciplined, honorable, lethal, to Lightyear, where the legendary space ranger is reduced to a bumbling, queer-coded sidekick afraid of commitment. This isn't representation, it's cultural castration. They don't want boys to aspire to be warriors, kings, or explorers. They want them to be consumers, emotionally stunted, addicted to validation, terrified of responsibility, and it's working. Boys are now diagnosed with ADHD at 3 times the rate of girls, CDC 2022, not because they're broken, but because schools are feminized factories designed for compliance, not courage. A boy who fidgets, argues, or climbs trees isn't disordered, he's a boy. But in the new world, boyhood is a disease. I call it the male debt economy, a system where men are conditioned from birth to pay emotional, financial, and existential debts with no possibility of reciprocity. You must provide, protect, perform, and disappear. You must fund weddings, children, divorces, and alimony, but no one funds you. You must listen to her problems, but when you break down, you're toxic. You must work 60-hour weeks so she can find herself. But when you demand loyalty, you're controlling. This isn't equality, it's emotional colonialism. And the currency of this debt, sacrifice. The feminist myth of the patriarchy as a club of male privilege is one of the most brazen lies in human history. Patriarchy wasn't a system where men oppressed women. It was a system where men died for women. They went to war, they worked deadly jobs, they came home broken and silent so their families could eat. And now the heirs of that sacrifice are told they are the oppressors. A 2022 University of California survey found that 87% of gender-related courses focused on female or LGBTQ+ issues, while less than 0.5% addressed male psychology, fatherhood, or male-specific crises like suicide, which claims 4 times as many men as women. Incarceration, men are 93% of the prison population, or workplace death. This isn't education, it's indoctrination. They teach girls to be victims and boys to be villains. And when a boy internalizes that message, he either becomes angry and gets medicated or numb and gets ignored. The feminist hegemony matrix isn't some conspiracy theory, it's the operating system of modern society. Academia produces the propaganda, media amplifies it, law enforces it, and therapy pathologizes resistance. Men are not allowed to have interests, grievances, or identity, only guilt. The term toxic masculinity is the most successful linguistic con-job since Democratic People's Republic. It doesn't critique abuse, it demonizes virtue. Strength becomes violence, stoicism becomes emotional repression, ambition becomes dominance, protectiveness becomes control. They don't want to reform bad men, they want to disarm good men. A man who stands guard is now called a patriarchal enforcer. A man who provides is labeled an oppressor. A man who marries and stays faithful is mocked as a simp. Meanwhile, women abort 60 million male fetuses globally each year, UN 2020, a silent, sex-selective holocaust, and we're supposed to believe men are the privileged class. The truth is obvious. If men vanish tomorrow, civilization collapses in a week. No power, no water, no food supply. If women vanished, we'd have a lot of lonely, well-fed men, but the lights would stay on. I've watched too many good men, smart, capable, kind, get emotionally gutted after a night that was supposed to bring them closer, only to be met with silence, ghosting, or outright contempt. I used to think it was bad luck, mismatched expectations, or just modern dating chaos. But it's not. There's a pattern here. A rhythm written in the code of biology and amplified by a culture that excuses and even celebrates female caprice while pathologizing male desire for closeness. The truth is not kind to sentimentality, but it is liberating. And if you're a man who's been burned, bewildered, or discarded after intimacy, what you're about to read isn't just theory, it's forensic anatomy of the trap and the key to walking out of it with your dignity intact. The post-intimacy abyss, emotional withdrawal as female estrous strategy. 68% of women feel less emotionally connected after sex with a new partner. That's not a pickup artist's paranoid fantasy. It's a peer-reviewed 2015 University of Texas study. Meanwhile, 74% of men feel more attached. This asymmetry isn't a flaw. It's a product of evolutionary psychology, so precisely calibrated it makes Darwin look modest. I've witnessed it up close, a friend in London, a high-earning banker, clean-cut, emotionally intelligent, dates a woman for 6 weeks. He's attentive, plans, thoughtful dates, treats her like royalty, they sleep together. The next morning, radio silence. No good morning, no that was amazing, nothing. 3 days go by. He texts, had a great time. She replies with a single K. 2 weeks later, he spots her at a members-only bar, draped over a tech entrepreneur, with a private jet and a Rolex the size of a communion wafer. Coincidence? No. This is hypergamy in motion, nature's built-in system for selecting higher status mates, masked as emotional intimacy. Let's cut through the feminist fog. Women are not emotionally symmetrical in relationships. Their feelings aren't a mirror of yours. They're a radar, constantly scanning for upgrades. The moment intimacy occurs, the female psyche doesn't default to bonding, it defaults to assessment. Was this man worth the genetic investment? Does he still project status, autonomy, and leadership? Or did he collapse into emotional dependence the second he got what he wanted? This is the 72-hour shift, a behavioral pivot, so predictable it should be taught in military strategy. Within 3 days of sex, she goes cold. She stops initiating, she withholds affection. She may even become subtly hostile. Why? Because she's testing you, not because she's complicated, but because evolution hardwired her to discard low-value males post-coitus. If you chase, panic, or grovel, you fail. If you remain indifferent, maintain your mission, and act as if nothing changed, you pass. This isn't manipulation, it's selection, and the selector always holds the power. I once analyzed a dataset from OkCupid, real numbers, not isolated stories. Women receive 5 times more messages than men, yet they start fewer conversations. Why? Because they are conditioned by biology and culture to be the selectors, not the selected. Feminism shouts equality, but in romance, women often exercise dominance. They don't look for companions, they look for providers, protectors, and genetic advantages. The movie Gone Girl wasn't fantasy, it was a practical guide. Amy Dunn doesn't simply outmaneuver Nick, she uses emotional detachment, fabricated victimization, and mental pressure to reveal his flaws. And millions of women saw that film and thought, brilliant. Because it is brilliant if your aim is power. But let's be honest, this isn't about specific women. It's about the female-centered system that encourages such conduct. Family courts assign children to mothers 85% of the time, no matter their capability. Men face arrest for complimenting a woman's look. Fathers lose contact with their children over child support debts they can't meet due to one-sided decisions. This isn't fairness, it's a feminized rule. So what's the remedy? The 72-hour protocol. After intimacy, do not initiate contact for 3 full days, not because you're playing games, but because you're asserting sovereignty. Let her wonder, let her anxiety do the work. If she reaches out with genuine curiosity, warmth, and respect, she sees you as a peer. If she ghosts, punishes, or tests further, she sees you as disposable. This isn't cruelty, it's clarity. And clarity is the antidote to the post-intimacy abyss. Weak men beg for validation. Strong men set the terms. The doormat filter is real. Women discard men who lack emotional independence like they discard a used napkin. They don't hate you, they pity you, and pity is deadlier than hate. Understand this. Female emotional withdrawal isn't rejection, it's a trial by fire. It's the modern echo of ancestral mate selection, where a woman, after sex, must determine if the man before her is a leader or a follower, a conqueror or a concubine. The left calls this toxic masculinity to neuter men, to break their spirit, to make them compliant wage slaves in a matriarchal dystopia. But we know the truth. We've read Schopenhauer on the will, Nietzsche on mastery, Aristotle on virtue. We know that love without respect is slavery, and sex without sovereignty is surrender. So when she goes cold, don't panic. Smile, walk taller. Double down on your mission, because the man who doesn't need her is the only man she'll ever truly want. It wasn't always this way. I remember Sunday mornings as a boy, the weight of the Bible in my hands, the hymns like armor against the chaos of the world. Back then, men stood tall, not because they were praised, but because they had something to answer to, a law above the mob, a king beyond the state, a call that demanded courage, not compliance. But now we live in a world where the sacred has been laundered into sentiment, where God is optional but gender pronouns are enforced with the fury of medieval inquisitors. I used to think secularism would liberate us. Instead, it disarmed us. It stripped men of their divine mandate and left them naked before the appetites of a culture that worships feelings, fragments identity, and burns its heroes at the stake of public opinion. The secular inquisition, how radical atheism erased the sacred masculine. God is dead, Nietzsche declared. But what he failed to anticipate was that men would die with him. I saw it happen in real time. A former youth pastor in Ohio, a man named Daniel, refused to affirm a transgender student during a school assembly. Not because he was hateful, not because he was cruel, but because he believed in something bigger than feelings, something older than gender ideology. He believed in truth. For that crime, the school board sacked him. The parents protested, the media smeared him, and the woke tribunal of social workers declared him a bigot. 2 years later, Daniel was found hanging from a rope in his garage, a martyr to the new secular inquisition, not burned at the stake, but strangled by silence, guilt, and the unbearable weight of being told that his faith, his duty, his manhood was pathological. And yet, the same school system that destroyed him now runs mandatory gender identity workshops where boys are taught that strength is toxic and fatherhood is optional. Tell me, reader, what kind of world condemns a man for believing in God, but celebrates another for believing he's a woman? Look at Sweden, the most secular nation on earth, where church steeples stand empty, and the state has declared war on masculinity itself. The Swedish government funds gender-neutral preschools where boys are discouraged from roughhousing, told that their natural energy is problematic, and where male teachers are under surveillance for being too dominant. The result? A male suicide rate of 22.4 per 100,000, more than double the female rate, WHO 2022. Not a single one of these men was killed by a woman, or by capitalism, or by racism. They were killed by emptiness, by the sacred void left when faith, fatherhood, and purpose are surgically removed from a man's soul. Sweden doesn't crucify men on crosses. It anesthetizes them with Nordic neutrality, then watches them quietly bleed out in silence. And while Swedish men die, the state funds feminist propaganda claiming men are overprivileged, a lie so grotesque it would make Machiavelli blush. You want irony? Here it is, 85% of priests, ministers, and rabbis are male. Yet today, spirituality has been hijacked by women, repackaged as Instagrammable yoga retreats, crystal healing, and vibes. Men who pray are mocked as weak, while women who chant affirmations in 120 leggings are celebrated as empowered. The sacred masculine, the warrior, the prophet, the priest, has been reduced to a meme, while the sacred feminine is commodified and sold back to us as self-care. I once attended a men's spiritual retreat in California where the facilitator, a man with a feather earring, told us to cry into a journal and hug a tree. I left after 2 hours, not because I hate nature. I've fasted in the desert and wrestled bears in my mind, but because I didn't come to be feminized. I came to be forged. Christianity didn't ask men to cry. It asked them to carry the cross, to lead, to die for something greater. But now, the only altar left is the altar of the self, and the only sacrifice demanded is your dignity. From 1960 to 2020, church attendance in the US plummeted from 73% to 39%, Pew Research. Coincidence that during that same period, male suicide rates tripled, fatherlessness soared to 40%, and male life expectancy flatlined while women's climbed? No, this is not correlation, it is causation. Remove the sacred, and you remove the reason for sacrifice. Christianity gave men a transcendent role, priest, protector, provider. It didn't just tell men to be good, it told them they were needed, that their existence mattered beyond utility, that their suffering could be redemptive. Secularism offers no such myth. It offers only 3 roles: consumer, worker, or victim. And when a man realizes he's not special, not chosen, not part of a divine plan, he either collapses into depression, like Daniel, or inflates into tyranny like the mass shooters who fill the news. Both are symptoms of the same disease, the sacred void. The BBC, in its documentary The Bible, A History, reduced Christ to a political activist, a first-century Bernie Sanders with sandals. No mention of his divinity, no reverence for his miracles, no awe at his resurrection. Just a smug British narrator explaining how Jesus challenged the establishment as if he were merely a disgruntled community organizer. This is the project of radical atheism, not to disprove God, but to diminish him, to flatten the transcendent into a footnote of sociology. They don't want you to think, they want you to feel that faith is primitive, that devotion is weakness, that sacrifice is obsolete. But here's the truth they can't admit. Every civilization that rejected the sacred masculine collapsed. Rome didn't fall because it was too Christian. It fell when it stopped producing men who were willing to die for Rome. And today, the West is producing men who won't even live for it. The Enlightenment promised reason over faith, but what we got was feelings over truth. Without God, there is no objective good, only power, desire, and chaos. Universities, media, and tech firms have become the new cathedrals, preaching dogmas of progressivism, gender fluidity, and materialism as unquestionable truths. Dissent is heresy. Questioning is blasphemy. I know I've been deplatformed, doxed, and called a hate agent for saying that biology matters, that fatherhood matters, that truth matters. These institutions don't want free thinkers, they want believers. And their religion. The worship of the self, the elevation of emotion over logic, and the ritual sacrifice of men on the altar of feminist grievance. Viktor Frankl, in Man's Search for Meaning, proved that man does not live by bread alone. He lives by meaning. The concentration camp didn't break him because he had a purpose. But what purpose does a modern man have? To max out a credit card, to chase dopamine hits on TikTok, to apologize for his existence. Christianity gave men a mission: to love, to serve, to suffer nobly. Now, we are told our only mission is to check our privilege and disappear. No wonder men are dying, not just by suicide, but by surrender, by numbness. By watching their sons raised by the state, while their daughters are radicalized by feminist curricula that teach them to despise men. The solution isn't to build more therapy apps, it's to rebuild the liturgy. Men need fasting, prayer, physical trials, fraternal oaths, not because they're magical, but because they forge. A man who fasts learns discipline. A man who prays learns humility. A man who trains learns resilience. A man who swears an oath learns loyalty. These are not relics, they are anti-fragile. The church may be empty, but the spirit is not dead. It lives in the man who rises at 5 a.m. to train, who reads Marcus Aurelius, who teaches his son to fight, to think, to believe in something true. The sacred masculine isn't gone, it's waiting to be reclaimed, not in cathedrals made of stone, but in the cathedral of the self. And when that happens, the secular Inquisition will crumble, not with a scream, but with a laugh, as men finally wake up and realize we were never the problem, we were the cure. I once believed the chaos of modern masculinity was the result of bad policy or cultural decay, until I sat across from a man whose father had taught him at age 12 to disassemble and reassemble a rifle blindfolded. That moment cracked my worldview open. It wasn't institutions failing men, it was the quiet generations-long erasure of the father as first sovereign, first lawgiver, first mirror of strength. The state, the school, the therapist, they all stepped in where the father once stood, not to fill the void, but to exploit it, to domesticate male energy into obedient subjects of the dinner-centric state. And so I began tracing the lineage not of nations, but of men, how the father's shadow stretches far beyond childhood into boardrooms, battlefields, and bedrooms. What I found wasn't sociology, it was fate. The fatherhood filter, how a man's relationship with his parents reveals his future. Show me a man's father, and I'll show you the design of his soul. This isn't trendy philosophy, it's the unshakable foundation of male identity. I've shared tables with men in dim bars and high-powered offices, and the truth holds firm. A father shapes the core of who his son becomes. A combat-hardened Marine sergeant in Virginia once told me something that silenced me. Every man in his unit who cracked under pressure had one thing in common: a missing or passive father. No outliers. In contrast, the men who led under fire, who held their ground when rounds ripped the air, had dads who were tough, consistent, and firm. One led soldiers at 23 because his father forced him to split logs each dawn before class. Another endured a Taliban attack because his dad had etched into him, "You don't quit, you don't cry. You don't look for permission." These weren't random links, they were outcomes of grit built under the pressure of a father's demand. Elon Musk didn't rise to greatness because of some Silicon Valley fairy tale. He clawed his way out of a childhood ruled by a narcissistic, emotionally abusive father, Elon Musk, a man so cold and manipulative that Elon once said, "My father's mind is like a house full of traps." That trauma didn't break him, it forged him. The relentless 100-hour work weeks at Tesla, the sleepless nights launching rockets, the refusal to surrender to failure. This isn't just ambition, it's trauma-forged resilience. He didn't run from pain, he weaponized it. And yet, the feminist media paints this as toxic masculinity, as if strength born of suffering is something to be pathologized. Let me be clear. The same academics who call Musk toxic are the ones who would have him collapse into therapy, sobbing about his daddy issues, instead of building Mars colonies. That's not healing, that's castration of the heroic spirit. Consider this: 70% of long-term prisoners in the United States grew up in fatherless homes, a fact confirmed by the Department of Justice in 2021. Let that register. Not 30%, not 50%, 70%. The lack of a father is not just a private sorrow, it is a force unraveling society. Every broken marriage, every school shooting, every wave of opioid deaths, every young man on Reddit screaming from isolation, they all stem from the same source, the missing father. Yet, mainstream feminist voices praise single motherhood as liberating, as though raising boys without male role models is a triumph. It isn't. It's a policy of ruin disguised as progress. They've reshaped the family into a testbed for female-centered ideology, painting fathers as useless, dangerous, or irrelevant. And when the boy becomes lost, furious, and without purpose, they point fingers at him, not at the framework that removed his father. Watch The Godfather again, not as mere entertainment, but as a mythic guide. Michael Corleone does not turn into a monster. He becomes a ruler. His shift begins the instant he steps into the role once held by his father, the role of protector, provider, and enforcer. When Don Vito is attacked, Michael does not weep. He does not seek counsel. He walks into the hospital, removes the guards' weapons, and saves his father, because that is what a true son does. The film is not about decay. It's about the passing of masculine authority. It's about the son who finally takes up the weight of leadership. Yet modern film critics, blinded by ideological bias, paint Michael's arc as downfall. To them, power in male hands is always toxic. But to men who live by duty, honor, and sacrifice, Michael's path is a truth unveiled. The father's strength endures through the son. I call it the parental mirroring law. A man unconsciously replicates his father's behavior in every relationship and leadership role he enters. A man with a lazy, absent father will struggle with discipline, constantly waiting for someone to tell him what to do, just like he waited for his dad to show up. A man with a tyrannical father may become either a control freak or a people pleaser, swinging between dominance and submission like a pendulum of trauma. I've seen it in startups, in marriages, in gyms, men repeating the script they inherited. The solution isn't therapy, it's audit. Every man must write a 1,000-word essay on his father and mother, cold, clinical, unemotional. Analyze their strengths, their flaws, their influence. This isn't navel-gazing, it's intelligence gathering, it's how you break the cycle. The father isn't just a provider, he is the first mirror of male strength. He is the first authority a boy must either submit to, rebel against, or integrate. Without that mirror, boys become either rebellious narcissists or broken husks. The Harvard Men's Study, running since 1938, found that men with strong father relationships were 3 times more likely to achieve professional success and marital stability. 3 times? Yet the Feminist Academy ignores this, instead pushing the lie that 2 moms are just as good. They aren't. 2 women cannot provide the same model of disciplined authority, risk-taking, and stoic endurance that a father does. Biology isn't bigotry, it's bedrock. Here's the red pill you're not ready for. You cannot lead a woman if you have not reconciled with your father. She will sense your unresolved rebellion, your hidden resentment, your unmet need for approval, and she will exploit it. Every woman knows, at some primal level, whether a man is anchored or adrift. If you're still trying to prove yourself to a ghost, she'll manipulate that weakness through guilt, through silence, through emotional blackmail. She'll turn your unresolved paternal wound into her leverage. That's not misogyny, that's evolutionary psychology. Women are wired to seek strong, stable providers. If you're emotionally dependent on a woman to fill the void your father left, you're not a man, you're prey. And let's talk about the initiative test. A man who waits to be told what to do in relationships, careers, or crises has failed the fatherhood filter. Leadership isn't taught in classrooms, it's modeled in the home. Did your father take initiative? Did he fix the roof without being asked? Did he stand up to injustice? Or did he sit on the couch, blaming the government, the economy, the system? The son becomes the father for better or worse. I once mentored a young man who couldn't make a decision without texting his girlfriend. When I asked about his dad, he said he's a nice guy, but he never made a tough call in his life. There it was, the root. The father's passivity had been inherited like a cursed heirloom. The father is not optional. He is the first republic, the original constitution of the self. Destroy him, and you destroy the nation within the man. Feminism, Marxism, and cultural leftism know this. They've spent decades dismantling the father not by accident, but by design. They call it equality, but it's really eunuch production. The systematic emasculation of men to serve a gynocentric, authoritarian state. And when men fail, when they drop out of school, when they can't hold jobs, when they die by suicide at 4 times the rate of women, the left blames toxic masculinity, never once admitting that they destroyed the very institution that produced real men. So do the audit. Face your father, whether he's alive or dead, present or absent. Understand him, forgive him, learn from him or reject him, but do it consciously, not unconsciously, because until you do, you are not free. You are a ghost, haunting the shadow of a man you were meant to become. You think the world is fair? Open your eyes, brother, while you were praying for love. Women were running paternity tests on their lovers and yours. The CDC admits 3.7% of children are not fathered by the man who believes he's the dad. But the real number, according to geneticists at the University of Chicago, is closer to 10 to 15% in high-trust marriages. That's not a bug in the system, that's the system. A silent epidemic of betrayal baked into the gynocentric cult that worships female emotion as gospel and male truth as oppression. And when you dare to question it, the state sends men to prison for commenting on a divorce hearing, while letting women walk free after aborting a pregnancy they used as blackmail. The family courts aren't courts. They're tribunals run by feminist ideologues where fathers are treated like debtors, not parents. You're more likely to be arrested for disagreeing with a judge than a woman is for lying about paternity. And yet we're told men are the abusers. Men are toxic. Men need fixing. Bullshit. You're not broken. You were bred to be exploited, then blamed when the trap snaps shut. I've seen men collapse under the weight of lies, software engineers, soldiers, surgeons, reduced to sobbing husks because they believed the fairy tale. That love is reciprocal, that marriage is sacred, that women are angels. They weren't angels, they were strategists, and you're not behind. You've just been red-pilled late, but now you see. Now you know why Disney stopped making heroes and started making doormats. Why schools medicate boys who fidget but celebrate girls who cut. Why churches are empty and men are dying alone. They didn't remove God. They replaced him with her and built a new religion where women are infallible and men are guilty until proven useful. But you are not useful. You are sovereign. You are the builder, the protector, the last line of defense against the soft tyranny of sentimentality. Schopenhauer knew it. Compassion is wasted on the cruel. Molyneux proved it. Truth is the only path to freedom. And you're walking it. So stand up, walk out of the blue pill matrix with your head high, stop chasing women who treat you like a resource to be drained. Stop apologizing for being strong, for thinking clearly, for demanding respect. Build your mission, your brotherhood, your legacy on your terms. The West wasn't built by beta providers or simping lovers. It was forged by men who knew duty, who honored truth, who died for something bigger than feelings. You are the heir to that lineage. Now act like it. The world doesn't need more victims, it needs knights. And the knights don't wait for permission, they ride. And now the sponsored book introduction, Misandry Man Box. Caged by feminism, tortured by Marxism, gynocentric two-tier injustice for men. I woke up one day realizing I was living a lie. Like many men, I swallowed the blue pill whole. I believed in equality, in being the nice guy, in bending over backwards to please women. The result, emasculation, betrayal, a soul crushed under the heel of gynocentrism. I watched my career suffer from feminist HR policies. I saw friendships destroyed by false accusations. I endured relationships where women's victimhood was a weapon to control and shame. That pain forged this book. It's a lifeline thrown into the ocean of male despair. This isn't theory, it's survival. If you're a man who feels society brands your strength as toxic, if you walk on eggshells around women who demand equality but exploit double standards, if you're tired of being blamed for existing, this book is your artillery. We dissect feminism's biological lies in The Cage Unseen. We expose Marxism's war on merit in Marxist Mind Virus. We reveal how women's evolutionary shit tests break weak men in biological betrayal. Every chapter, from education's war on boys to DEI death cult, arms you with undeniable truths. To the blue-pilled, the simps, the manginas, your suffering has a cause. Feminism cages you. Marxism poisons your worth. This book is your red pill. It dismantles the gynocratic matrix using evolutionary psychology, cold logic, and brutal examples. You'll learn why schools sabotage boys into beta slaves, how abortion culture legalizes male extinction, why transgender dogma erases biological reality. These aren't opinions, they're facts, buried by leftist lies and enforced by societal psychosis. Non-target audience. Put this down now. If you're a feminist, a Marxist, or a woke activist clinging to victim narratives, you'll hate what's here. Go read poetry, knit a sweater. This book will feel like a knife twisting in your ideology. It's not for you. It's for men ready to reclaim their spine. Read this and you'll never see the world the same. You'll shatter the man box. You'll turn rage into power. Your silence ends here. Misandry Man Box, caged by feminism, tortured by Marxism, gynocentric two-tier injustice for men, written by Conrad Reicher. Buy now, links in description.